TGCRequiem, we are back with modern Grixis Reanimator. We are playing against the Legend of Carax. We're going to be on the play. I think this is probably keepable. I think we lead on Serum Visions and then Faithful Saluting after the Serum Visions. We can set up our draws a little bit, and we can use Simian Spirit Guide, Faithful Saluting at that point. But yeah, this is keepable. We may or may not Faithful Saluting turn one, dependent on our opponent's mulligan and what we see on top of our library. Simian Spirit Guide does help us get to a Through the Breach if that becomes the path that we need to go in this game. Extra Simian Spirit Guide. We don't need the Grizzlebrand at all. We're going to put that on the bottom, and essentially Liliana's Death Majesty is just not what we're looking for quite yet, so we'll put that on the bottom right now as well. So not knowing what's on top, if our opponent Thought Seizes us, Faithless Looting, going to the graveyard's a little bad. We still have another Simian Spirit Guide. Yeah, I think we're actually just going to go ahead and Faithless Looting here. So, Goryo's Vengeance is great, Through the Breach, but we don't need two of them. Really need a black mana source to be able to make use of the Goryo's Vengeance here. Probably going to get a Thought Seize or Inquisition to take it away. Anywhom. Yeah, barf. Well, these are the risks of keeping potentially... So that hand, certainly there's the risk of this happening, but it was a high power level, and if we drew into a land there in time, on top of the Goryo's Vengeance like we did, you almost certainly just win. And so pretty... Okay, looks like we're playing Grixis Shadow here. Opponent's doing all of this on end step. So having the second Goryo's Vengeance is pretty good here, considering it does allow us to fight through a Thought Seize or Inquisition if we can draw a land. So it looks like the opponent's going for like a Gurmag Angler or a Tassiger here. So nothing relevant that they exiled there for the Gurmag Angler. So we are kind of in a pinch where we need to do this with the second Simian Spirit Guide. Really hoping to draw a black mana source. Being able to pitch the second Grizzlebrand Through the Breach, we're never getting there. Oh. If we had drawn a black mana source, I think we just win this game almost certainly off the back of back-to-back Goryo's Vengeances, but at this point we're probably going to die swiftly. Now they have access to the Snapcaster Stubborn Denial. Yeesh. No bueno. But again, I think the power level of this hand did warrant the keep. Question here now is, do you just fire off the Goryo's Vengeance, or do you wait till your opponent's turn? You could try and put Grizzlebrand down as a blocker to buy some time and then draw some cards. The problem here is, again, they have access to Snapcaster plus Stubborn Denial. I think I'd rather try it on the opponent's turn and or end step, and then be able to try and do it again on our turn. I'm going pretty low here. Looks like they're trying to get a shadow out, but Grizzlebrand on end step and then Grizzlebrand on our turn could be enough to win this game, actually. They put themselves into a range where we can actually kill them. So we can do this on end step, and then Grizzlebrand will actually stay on the battlefield for our turn. Is Stubborn didn't snap? No, Stubborn. Yeah, excellent. So if they snap Stubborn here, we're just gonna win on our turn. And so despite some hiccups, we still ended up getting there. But again, just because of the strength of the hand, and we ended up drawing a land just in time. Certainly we could have been picked apart by something like a Inquisition or Thoughtseize if they had drawn a heavy hand of those. However, again, Grixis doesn't quite run as many as, say, the Jund Shadow version had in terms of the hand disruption spells. So, in this matchup, I feel like we definitely want Jace Vryn's Prodigy. I feel like we want Fatal Push and Thoughtseize. We could consider Boseiju, because they are going to try and Stubborn Denial or Goryo's Vengeances, but they also have Nihil Spellbomb and Surgical Extraction, so we want to be a little careful with those, but I think that's possibly warranting to at least bring in one Dispel, maybe two Dispels to counter Surgical Extraction. I think just one's probably right. We absolutely want Painful Truths to fight all the hand disruption they're going to throw at us. The flip side of this is we really don't probably want Collective Brutality in this matchup. It doesn't do anything against their creatures. Certainly it's a way to attack their hand, but we're bringing in the Thoughtseizes to do the same job here. So we do not really want to go that route. Is it Charm as a pseudo counter spell? Pretty good. I actually could see pulling another one of these for another Dispel as well. Liliana's Death's Majesty. Yeah, maybe Liliana just isn't that good. The matchup could be a bit grindier, and so it's possible Liliana is okay, but I'm leaning towards probably not the best here. So So we pulled 5. We're looking to bring in 9. Got 4 more cards to cut. I do think we actually want to pull probably a Goryo's Vengeance. We probably want to pull a Faithless Looting, 2 Faithless Looting, at least on the draw. And this is because Nihil Spellbound and Surgical Extraction, but also on the, we're going to have the Hand Disruption. Faithless Looting just kind of helps strengthen the weakness of that. And I'm going to submit that. I feel like that time went really fast. So Jace could be really, really good in this matchup. Opponent keeps. So here's the problem. This is a phenomenal hand. And yet, I can't help but feel like they are going to be in position to just destroy us. So, turn 1 Serum Visions, turn 2 Jace, theoretically Jace into pitching Emrakul, Goryo's Vengeancing Emrakul. But I think what we need to consider here is, so first of all, we're 100% keeping this. But what we want to consider is maybe the Jace just dies. We Goryo's Vengeance the Jace back. I can't imagine Jace is going to just die because our opponent is likely to have pulled all their Fatal Pushes. They may have kept 1 or 2 Terminates in. More likely they just rip the Goryo's Vengeance from our hand with a Thoughtseize. Or Inquisition. It's also possible that they go for like an Emrakul and then surgically extract it, taking the number of win conditions we have down dramatically. They could also do the same thing with Goryo's Vengeance, so they may be Street Wraithing to just try and get to a surgical extraction. Painful True is pretty good here. We are just going to lead on the island, however, because we want to get black-red and we can't cast Serum Visions off black-red. I think we're going to go bottom, top. So maybe looking to flip Jace and Goryo's Vengeance turn 3. We'll be able to get a couple fetches, and Jace with the draw discard will actually cause Jace to flip, allowing us to cast the Goryo's Vengeance from the graveyard. Looks like we're going to get a Thoughtseize, maybe a Death Shadow. Death Shadow would be far superior to Thoughtseize from our perspective. Okay, Gurmag. So the hope is, again, that they just removed all of their cheap removal, considering it's no good against Emrakul and Grizzlebrand. It's still possible they kept a Terminator 2 in, so that is something to consider. We are in position where next turn we would be able to use Goryo's Vengeance on Emrakul? Oh no, we actually can't, can we? So if we... Okay, Collective Brutality, that makes sense. Are they taking all 3 modes? Not just 2, so... they're going to get our Painful Truths as well. That is absolutely brutal. Really in a Faithless Looting into Goryo's Vengeance or bust. Fast or quickly getting into that position. Still a minor chance at an out through, what can we could possibly draw land, Simian Spirit Guide. Our opponent has us on a 3-turn clock. But we're going to have to do enough. So we need an upright mana source that doesn't require us to fetch. And then we could potentially through the breach and Emrakul. Which means we do have to actually sack the Delta here for 1 while we can. Getting the steam vents just in case we draw into anything like... Yeah, so this is not good enough. We needed something that we didn't have to crack fetch for because we are going to take 5. We won't be able to crack the Scalding Tarn to get mana through the breach here. So we'll play it out, see if our opponent does anything, but most likely they're just going to attack with Gurmag Angler and then sit back on their victory. They know at least 3 of the 4 cards in our hand at this point due to the... Alright, and so actually that's game. Snapcaster would be lethal. Pretty fast clock. We'll be on the play for game 3. May adjust our sideboarding a little bit to account for that. So I think Echoing Truth is actually looking even better now. If we consider the fact that our opponent is delving into these creatures, if we can bounce like a Gurmag Angler or a Tasigur, that could really set them back quite a ways. I think based on all their hand disruption, we kind of want to maximize Goryo's Vengeance and try and just play a little bit faster here. I think Fatal Push actually, since Shadow Grixis is so popular, is going to be a little worse, and on the play I don't think we want it. I think we want to optimize going for the combo here. Dispel, Serum Vision, Slate, Thought Seize for sure, Peer Through the Depths. I don't know if we really want Peer here. Yeah, I think we still do. They rip our hand apart enough where Peer does help us maybe put the pieces back together. I'm going to cut one more Izzet Charm. Can we cut? I don't know. We got to be careful about overdoing it on getting rid of discard outlets. As it is, we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Actually going to cut through the breach. I think we're just kind of too slow to care about that. I mean, we'll keep a Miser's one in there. If we're going to do that, we might as well keep 2 in there. But the way they beat us is not by holding the heal spellbomb over our head, really. I mean, it's a possibility for sure, but it's the surgical extraction, and Through the Breach becomes weak if you don't have the creatures to launch with it, so you might as well just go for the early graveyard kill. Focus on that. And the odds of us burning or getting up to 5 mana, 4 or 5 mana in time to Through the Breach seems a little slim. So this is a phenomenal hand. Again, we'll be able to pitch Grizzlebrand right off the bat, have Goryo's Vengeance, turn to Jace as well. We're going to keep this. A little worse knowing our opponent is going to rip at our hand pretty hard. Two Goryo's Vengeance is great. So definitely pitch Grizzlebrand, and I think Through the Breach here. So I wouldn't be surprised to see our opponent go at our Jace. Knowing we have two Goryo's Vengeance in hand. Maybe they have a Surgical Extraction. So we're going to go for this. There is a chance we just get blown out here by Surgical Extraction, but we don't really have a choice. We have to put him on it. I like pitching Grizzlebrand again here. That makes it really hard for our opponent. We have the lands we need. We could draw into a Through the Breach now, but I think Jace plays fine for that. Don't think we need Slate and the Serum Vision, so I think we're just going to toss one of the Serum Visions. I think the rest of these cards I pretty much want. We really are looking for like a Through the Breach, so Pure seems better than some of the others. We already have a Faithless Looting in the graveyard. Since we have a couple turns, I think we're gonna... So next turn we're gonna Jace, and then either Slate or Sleight of Hand or Serum Visions. We're not gonna Peer Through Depths almost certainly. We could do it on our opponent's end step. But we don't have a discard outlet in case we were to draw into... So I think we're just going to pitch Slate here. Sleight of Hand. This gives our opponent essentially 2 turns. Okay, so now if they take the Jace, then at this point, odds of hitting another Goryo's Vengeance are pretty slim, so we're going to start to probably play more towards a... Through the Breach game plan. Is it possible that our opponent is short on mana? That could be problematic for them. Okay. So I think we Serum Visions first, because then we can sleight a hand if we just get an absolutely amazing draw. Thoughtseize is pretty good, but not really what we're playing to at this point. So I think we put this on the bottom. I'm okay with Charm on top. The problem with Charm on top is we cannot cast it here. Well, I suppose we could Faithless Looting. And then that way we still have access to blue mana in case we want to Simian Spirit Guide. Is it Charm? So I think we'll keep this on top for now. It's got some flexibility. And then we're going to Faithless Looting. I'm going to draw 2. Opponent may try and Stubborn Denial here. They're going to Thought Scour. Looking for a Surgical Extraction. They're feeling a little nervous. I think we discard a Simian Spirit Guide here. And probably the Mountain. Suppose if they have a Fulminator, yeah, no, we're still okay with that, right? Actually, I think we're going to get rid of the Swamp. Oh, our opponent Thought Scoured us because we left a card on top. That's interesting, so I missed that at first. Okay. So in that case, instead of passing turn, we're actually just going to go ahead and Slate a hand here. Yeah. Death's Shadow. So here a Collective Brutality would be pretty excellent. Opponent's probably holding up a Stubborn Denial. It's a shame Is It Charm doesn't do 2 damage to creature or player. So definitely gonna lead Serum Visions. Oh yeah. Echoing Truth and Dispel are both excellent here. So my opponent's going to Thought Scour us again. So we could peer through Depths.
I will get back up.
Hold on a moment, please.
If something goes a little wrong.
Sorry about that. My daughter just came home and started singing to me. Alright, so suppose the better play is just Is It Charm the Thought Scour? Counter target non-creature spell. How are we winning though? We need Echoing Truth, right? So the Echoing Truth will buy us time for sure. We need a Through the Breach. I guess we don't need Dispel at this point. Echoing Truth is really more of our play. But we can't peer into... Right, so I think we need to pitch Peer at this point and probably Dispel, because really what we need is either to draw a Through the Breach or to be able to bounce the opponent's Death Shadow next turn. Now if for some reason the opponent has 2 bolts, we're just done, but that's just unlikely. So I think we can't flashback, can we? Yeah, we could. We could flashback a Faithless Looting here with a Simian Spirit Guide holding up the ability to cast a Goryo's Vengeance or Echoing Truth, which buys us the extra turn that we need. And I think we need to do it now because we need to basically increase the odds of hitting. Worst case, we end up just pitching the 2 cards that we draw. I think we end up having to pitch an Emrakul here. But if our opponent were to Thought Seize us, yeah, we need the Simian Spirit Guide. Suppose we don't need the Simian Spirit Guide.
Let me tell you something.
Oh, not right now, honey. This is tight. This is tight. We reshuffled in the graveyard, so we should have access to a swamp here. The thing is we are just done to our opponent having a Stubborn Denial. The odds increase of them having a Stubborn Denial on their next draw step. But I think we need to like hold Echoing Truth in case they play 2 Death Shadows and do it on their end step, because that would buy us essentially 2 turns. Of course, that's not even reasonable because our opponent is obviously going to attack. And Stubborn Denial for the win. Alright. So we dug quite a bit. But let's see, how close were we to one of those Through the Breaches? I guess not very close because we had to reshuffle our library, and that was a mistake I made. With all the digging we did, letting them Emrakul reshuffle the library was Unfortunately, something that just reduced the chances of us drawing into a Through the Breach at that point. Plus, also, we pulled a bunch of the Through the Breaches, so it's possible we should have just been playing towards Agorio's Vengeance instead. Maybe I should have actually pitched an Emrakul to shuffle the Goryo's Vengeances back into the deck earlier, and then that could have given us increased odds of hitting Goryo's Vengeance and, you know, Faithless Looting or something to that effect, or just played more with that game plan in mind. Fortunately, did kind of forget that we thinned down to 2 Through the Breaches post board. So, anywho, hopefully you enjoyed. Feel free to subscribe in the middle there. On the left, we'll have the next video in the matchup, in the league rather, and on the right, a link to a playlist of more Grixis Reanimator. Have a great day.